Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Doesn't My Partner podcast.
I'm Jules.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met through our training and practice of relational life therapy. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. If something you hear in this podcast stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
All right, and let's dive in with today's listener question.
Hey ladies, thank you so much for doing this podcast. This is Erica, and I have a question about why my partner doesn't follow through with what we have talked about. So if we have a discussion of like, I want more communication or I need more, positive affirmations, it might happen for about a week and then it sort of stops. So I'm just wondering why does it stop? Thanks so much.
First, Erica, thanks for this question. So awesome and so common.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because tons of people say no or say yes when they mean no. Oops.
Oops.
Tons of them. Like tons and tons and tons of people say yes when they actually don't mean yes.
Should we talk about why this kind of even like is a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my pieces here that I work with a lot of my clients around is how much when we're growing up, we have to contort ourselves to take care of the grownups that are raising us in some way, to tend to them and make them comfortable. And so we learn really, really early on to not know ourselves or even know what our no's are.
Oh, totally. So it could happen that I have a true no, but I don't even know it. And it could happen that I do have a true no, I know it, but I ain't going to tell you.
Because I'm afraid of the conflict that it might stir up.
Right. Or I just don't want to deal with it. So sometimes people do it in like a placatey sort of way. Like, I don't want to deal with your blow up eye roll. if I tell you no, so I'm just going to tell you yes to shut you up. So sometimes people do it like that. And then sometimes people do it in more of like, why would I stand up for myself because I'm not worth it? Or even oh no, I'm too afraid of your reaction if I tell you my truth.
And Rebecca, with what you were saying about like what we learned in childhood, not even knowing what my yes or no is, not tuning into my own true answer right now. And so like you were saying, Jules, placating you. I'll say yes because I know it's what you want to hear. And I don't even know if I mean it or not. Oh, and I'll just figure that part out later. Like, okay, you want me to do that next week? And I'm thinking like, I'll just figure it out next week because I don't know.
Right. Exactly. And so I'm thinking about U-turns, and I'm thinking that we have people who have been on both sides of this.
Right.
I know I've been on both sides of this.
I have
not. I say yes when I mean yes. I say no when I mean no.
Are you for serious?
She's not.
Not at all.
I am so gullible.
I'm like the biggest person out there that doesn't know their own voice and like has to figure it out.
Oh, you're the one who has no idea whether or not
I'm
it's
the one
no
who
and
has
says
it,
yes
yeah.
anyway.
But that was really fun. Oh, that was
That was
so fun.
It's like, that doesn't sound right. Oh, so right. So we've all been on both
Sorry.
sides. So you're perfect. So if I'm the person who's asking for a yes and then that falls away, my U-turn is I think about the skill we have called direct request.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah. My favorite about it is how vulnerable it is.
Yes.
And when it comes to good relationship, if I want a good relationship, I have to show up totally authentic, right? I've got to have vulnerability. I've got to have empathy. I've got to have accountability.
Mhm.
That's my work. And hopefully I pick a partner or help them in their journey to show me vulnerability, empathy, and accountability. So that's my map, right? So it is a vulnerable thing. You're going to make points in your vulnerability category if you can do direct request. So it's saying really what I need. But what's tricky about direct request is that sometimes I'm thinking about a couple I worked with for a long time, and he said, just because you put a question mark at the end, like in your tone, doesn't mean it was actually a request. And that's so true.
That's a good way to phrase it too.
Right? So sometimes we're saying, but I asked, but it's like not okay for my partner to say no. So the reason it's vulnerable, direct request, this skill, is that I'm actually asking for what I want, knowing it is possible that I will not get it.
Yeah.
And I'm the grief lady again. Jeez. Like, this is the disappointing piece.
It is.
A lot of times, not sometimes, often in my marriage, I will want things that I don't get. And so, like, let's say I wanted better communication and we had a meta conversation about it and we had an agreement. But what if I was asking and my partner could really tell this truth?
Yeah.
Is that I wasn't asking. I was demanding.
It sets up a scenario then where partners are really in that either placating kind of space, just to kind of like a child in some ways, right? There's this power dynamic that gets put into play. And if I want to keep the balance and keep things okay enough between us, then I need to just kind of go along with this, even though I don't really want to. And if I don't know myself well enough, then it might even be hard for me to notice that this isn't what I want to do because you're suggesting it. And so I should just do it.
And that's the balance that you've gotten in the relationship is in at the time.
Yeah. That's the dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure if I'm asking that it's actually a direct request, that it's not a demand. I tell all my couples, I'm like, look, you're in a long-term relationship. So I'll give you 4 or 5 demands total for the life of your relationship. Total. So make them good ones. Demand level stuff. We are or are not having children. We are in an open relationship, or we're in a monogamous relationship. Yeah. So that would be a demand level thing. Or sometimes how we spend money is negotiation, but other times it's more like a demand level thing. So there are some things that are really, really big that would be demand level. Like when I say demand level, what I mean is not that you can't negotiate it or that that it's not something that could have lots of ways, lots of strategies that would meet your need. But when I say demand level, what I'm saying is this is a non-negotiable for me. So if I walked into our marriage, and actually my husband and I walked into our marriage not knowing if we wanted kids, and we were both in that boat. So that was this crazy negotiation space. But let's imagine for a moment, I walked into that marriage knowing I wanted kids. And then later on, he said no. If that's really true, my truth is I am going to have children in this lifetime. I might choose to walk away from that relationship.
Right. Correct.
Because of that. So that's demand level. And our day-to-day stuff is not demand level
It's not
stuff.
demand level.
Right. The day-to-day stuff is more like, you said you'd go grocery shopping. Why didn't you follow through on that?
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So
maybe we even need a meta conversation somewhere along the line about how we do grocery shopping eventually. But right.
Right. But so like there are all these like little, it's typically like the tasks of daily living. It's the grocery shopping, it's the childcare, it's the,
Well, and I heard in this question, it was maybe even out of meta conversations.
Yeah.
Like maybe we talked about wanting to have a different kind of communication and it changes for a week and then goes away. So it maybe even is with some of these more tender conversations and bigger in the larger relational scope. But what I want us to do when we're the ones asking the question is to really get clear with ourselves. Is this a thing for me that if I didn't get not the agenda of what I want, but the need met, I would need to go. Right? So there's a difference between the agenda and the need. So like, I need to feel loved, right? Is a need level. That's a demand level thing for me. I need to feel loved. How many different ways I can take in feeling loved? If I locked into one strategy, you need to tell me you love me every morning. That's a strategy, not a need.
Okay.
Right? So the need is I need to feel loved. The strategy is you leave me a Post-it on my mirror every morning telling me how much you love me in poetic form.
And send me a text.
My husband would never do that, by the way. He is amazing.
I would love that.
My husband is incredible. And there's no way. No, I would be the one to do that. No, I love poetry. That's not his love language. No, I would be the one who's more likely to do that than him. He does all sorts of amazing things.
I'd leave my husband poetry and he'd be like, what is this?
That would
totally.
What do you want me to do with it?
Totally. I do that. That is exactly, you just said exactly what
totally
happens.
doing
I write
tomorrow.
him super romantic poetic things and he goes, I don't understand.
I don't know what this means.
Totally. And true. And he plays fun songs in our kitchen instead. And it's also really deeply brilliant. Like making up lyrics. He's brilliant at it. It's awesome.
I could see that. Yes.
So the strategy, the trick is when we're in a direct request that we don't lock into strategy.
Yeah.
That I'm clear about the need piece, but I'm not locking into a strategy about how it gets met.
This is where so many couples get into trouble, though. Right?
Yeah, because we all start with strategy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if your direct request is very different than that and is coming more from a need, so get clear with yourself about what need you're trying to get met. So usually how it happens, I don't know about for you guys, how it happens for me is I think of a brilliant strategy and I assume that's what I need. And then I have to check myself and I have to go, okay, Jules, like, okay, but if you got this thing, like if you got a date night a week, that's a strategy. Okay. If I got a date night a week, what would change for me? Like what would be different for me? And that's going to help me drop down into the need. And then I can start the conversation instead with, you know what? I've been noticing I've actually been feeling kind of lonely and I think I need more connection. I've thought of like date nights or maybe like morning coffees out on the porch together before our day gets started. Or maybe we could like spend some time together without the TV.
And that opens up a space now where your partner can even then say, oh, or we could go for a hike, or maybe we just do daily dog walks, or, tomorrow could we? And now you have an ability to meet that need in a lot of different creative ways that are flexible, and both of you have a voice.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's, I think, a skill with direct request is
Yeah.
if you start from a need space, not a strategy space, you're more likely to come up with creative strategies together to solve a problem.
And those are the ones when you do them together,
Mhm.
when it's not just one strategy that's being imposed upon it, but when you are creatively coming up with them together, those are the ones that we tend to follow through on.
I was going to say they tend to stick. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because both people, consciously or not, have had a say in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about the U-turn on the other side? Because I know I've been on the other side too. So what if I'm the person listening to this and saying, oh man, I say yes when I mean no a lot. What's the U-turn there?
All right. Well, so there's a few different pieces
Mhm.
because one, I mean, I think this is complicated. One part of this is, first of all, I got to like figure out what I want or what's okay with me. I need to know what I'm agreeing to. And am I okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
And the next piece is, can I withstand the discomfort that might come
Yes.
from speaking up about what my truth is?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. Can I tolerate, I need to be able to, like you said, sit in that discomfort, tolerate, for me, it's a he, his response to me when I finally realize I mean no. And so I say no, and I've now disappointed him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe disappointing him is unbearable, too hard for me, whatever term we want to use.
Which is where psychological boundary comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to have a space where, when I think about psychological boundary, I think of this space where it's going to make it okay for us to have difference. And I can stay connected to you through that difference. And I could talk about psychological boundary for like 2 hours, but the basic idea is that it is benevolent and respectful to let another human being have their feeling journey in this lifetime. So it's actually fine for your husband to feel disappointment. Because his disappointment didn't just come from you. It actually came from his own attachment to whatever it was he was asking for, just as much as it came from your no. And it's actually a journey you guys are in together. And I would never want to steal from him his process of meaning and discovering in his own life. So that's one part of it. And the other part is, okay, well, is it about me? Is it not about me? Is it true? Is it not true? So it's a discernment thing.
Right.
So if you say no and he's disappointed, is that going to be okay for you to say, oh, that's his and keep it out?
Right.
Yeah.
That's his issue.
Yeah.
I don't say
It's
that's
his
his and not
stuff.
mine, but that's his
Well, it's
stuff.
his process.
It's his process.
It's not even about like, ooh, disappointment is bad. Like, granted, it is unpleasant.
Right.
It is unpleasant.
Yeah,
That doesn't make
get
it bad.
No.
I remember this time, it must have been about 5 years ago. I was just learning all about this psychological boundary stuff. And my husband and I were working through something, and he had some big feelings. And I remember looking at him being like, yeah, those are your feelings to have. And because we're both learning this stuff together, we high-fived each other on that. Like talk about marking a moment, right? We're like, boom, yeah, those are your feelings. They're not mine. You get to have them and not me.
Totally.
I don't have to own your emotional response.
But that was like such a bombshell moment for us because we both grew up in homes where we had to take care of everybody's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Yep.
we
And
were
then
the
you're in the
feeling
habit of it.
absorbers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what you learn there is you sacrifice your own needs to make sure everybody else feels okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good way to learn to ignore your no. So you might have that going on, but you're going to have to, so you got to have a psychological boundary. And can I say one more thing from like a brain sciencey way about psychological boundary?
Please do.
I can't help myself.
You can't help it.
I can't stop.
And we love it.
It's cute that you ask. It's cute that you ask.
So it turns out that the part of your brain that does the mentalizing network that's all about psychological boundary, i.e., you can have a difference from me and we can still be here together, speaks the language of imagery. So we have these 5 languages our brain speaks: behavior, affect, sensation, image, cognition. Imagery is really heavy in this part of the temporal lobe. And so if you have an actual image of a boundary around your body, the image can know these things. It's benevolent and respectful to let another human have their process. And it does discernment. I only take in what's true. I only take in what's about me. And I ask my inner gut to show me, what visual image would represent that for me? And I've had people come up with 1,000 different things. I've had people come up with walls of Christmas lights and oceans. Water is a super common one. Ponds and oceans and things like that. Waterfalls, gardens. Mine.
Oh, like space. Okay.
Yeah, space.
Yeah, that's
right.
what I'm here with the garden.
Mine is a 6-foot thick wall of sparkly pink jello surrounding my body. I do not know why, but that is what it is. And so I love my jello.
Jello? Is it permeable?
No, it's permeable.
Does it move? Does it jiggle?
It
Please don't walk
does
through
jiggle
it.
sometimes. It does jiggle sometimes. And it lets in what's true and what's about me.
Interesting.
And it lets me bear witness, stay connected to, and deeply care about other people as they go through their process without me interrupting their process, because it ain't my journey.
I want a 6-foot wall of sparkly jello.
I don't.
Would yours be pink as well?
So
I didn't
gross.
say pink. I don't know what color mine would be yet. I gotta
Well,
sit
here's
with
the thing is that everybody's is going to be different. And so you got to you actually ask your viscera. You actually ask your belly brain and your heart brain. I'm going to just sit with these concepts and then I'm going to come up with my version of Jules's jello wall. And it's going to be different for everybody. So
And it also,
whatever your image is great.
It doesn't have to be the same image, right? Because for me, my containment boundary is literally like a cylinder Tupperware that comes over my body in a circle.
Loving
and
Tupperware.
The protective boundary is a glass wall in front of me. So they
don't have to be the same.
They don't have to be the same.
And right now we're talking more about what you're talking about, the protective boundary, and I'm calling the psychological boundary. And we're talking about the same thing. So I just want to be clear on our language. When protective boundary is like discernment. It's like, what's
discernment.
yours is yours. What's yours is yours. What's true is true. I take in what's true. I take in what's about me. Otherwise, I keep it out. So you can have 2 different ones, a different one for containing your own way you show up in the world.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
I'm realizing even as we're sitting here, I know exactly what mine is. It's been here for a long time.
What is it?
I feel like you've said it.
It's like a forest. There's like ferns and all these different layers. And it's really permeable, but it's like really faceted. And, it's an overgrown, ferny, growthful, fungi-filled forest.
Awesome. Fungus boundary. Ferny boundary. I love it.
Yeah. And it's like connected to like the wisdom that lives inside. Like I know what I know. And if I can touch base with that, then I can really discern, is this me? Is this you? Is this true? Is this not true? Is this something that, am I having this thought now or making up the story now because of something that I learned somewhere? Is this benefiting me or somebody else? Right? Like it's helping me with that whole discernment process.
Exactly. And the truth is you will feel safer to say no when you mean no, if you've got your own protection in place. Now I'm living more authentic with my partner and I'm being more vulnerable, because don't forget, and especially when you hear a no from a partner, no's are vulnerable too. Not always, but a lot of the time.
It is very challenging for my husband to say no to me. When you say no's are vulnerable, this has been an issue, and it's only come up between us in the past couple of months that I have figured it out. But I have to tell him that's why request and demand are so big in my marriage, because I've had to tell him this is not a demand. This is a request, and you're allowed to say no. I'm not his therapist. I don't know why no's are hard for him to give. I know that they are.
Well, he's scared of you, but in like a good way.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but
No, but I mean, like, I don't mean scared of you. Like,
because anyone who knows me is picturing me. They're like, okay, Vicky's not scary.
No, Vicky is not scary at all. But like, yeah, but you liking him and loving him is important to him.
And if he says no and
That's sweet to hear.
disappoints you,
Yes, because he would never say that out loud. So it's nice to hear Jules say it for him. I'm going to take that. I'm going to absorb
You can
that.
ask him if I'm right. I think I am.
I think you are too.
Because he loves you and he doesn't want to disappoint you.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were taught that the stuff we put out in the world is the cause of other people's feelings. And that's only part of the truth. Like, I affect people. How I behave in this world affects people, but that's only part of the story of how feelings are made.
Yes. That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
Yeah. So, direct request. What? Go.
Well, I just kind of had this moment where I was like thinking about my own children and how much we in our home, like, kind of celebrate the no when it comes from them, but also kind of how revolutionary that is to
That
celebrate
is radical,
a no.
man.
Right. And so I'm just kind of noticing that, right? Because if that's so radical, to celebrate like a knowing that comes through somebody, like, no, I don't want to be touched like that, or no, I don't want to be tickled, or no, don't cuddle me right now, or no, I want to be left alone to read myself to bed at night, or no, right? Like, whatever the thing is, right? If that's so radical, like, how much of our lives for all of us are based around kind of like bypassing those no's?
Yeah. Tons.
Yeah.
And then the damage that does to our future relationships.
Totally. Because now we're
the
not
damage it does to authenticity.
Yeah.
So
yes.
If I'm going to show up, I love Brene Brown's, and she actually didn't make this up. It's a mix of her and Joan Halifax. So Joan Halifax says, soft front, strong back. And then Brene Brown added wild heart. So soft front, I lead with vulnerability. Strong back, I've got myself. I'm centered. I'm grounded. I can take care of myself when stuff goes wrong. I can stand my ground when I need to. Wild heart, I'm willing to speak my authentic truth no matter what. And if I show up like that, I'm going to show up wholehearted in my relationship. Which, I can't control my partner. I have no idea if he's going to show up wholehearted in our relationship. He does all the time. Some days he won't, whatever. But that's not my journey. My journey is mine, and I'm going to show up wholehearted. And that means I got to have enough safety, psychological boundary, and enough vulnerability, willing to risk the no, direct request, to show up soft front, strong back, wild heart.
Well said. That was a great, succinct way to pull it all together.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we leave it there?
I think we leave it there.
I think so.
I think that's a beautiful place to land. Should we just
guess.
review the skills real quick?
Yeah.
We have direct request,
Not demanding.
Speaking truth.
and psychological boundaries.
Psychological boundary. Find your image.
Great. So we'll see you all again here next week.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at our bootcamp. You'll find the next date at whydoesmypartner.com.